Ron Royston is a member of the busiest search and rescue team in the province. As a chartered accountant, he missed nearly 2 weeks of work last year.
I started this in response to one of my best buddies being killed in a small avalanche accident while he was trying to teach other skiers about mountain safety.
Unfortunately, the rest of the people at that time didn't know what to do. And I said to myself, I'm going to find out what to do.
One of the areas is that little upper opening shelf coming out of the north gully.
So I was fortunate enough through my ski patrol environment to learn about the things we needed to know about avalanches and the risk and the impact that it could have and the danger that it brought.
The terrain in the backcountry there is very, very treacherous and steep. It's not like the front side of the mountain.
So that was a quantum leap forward for the team. The coordination of what the North Shore Rescue Team was doing and the ski patrols were doing. There were several people in the team who were in both groups, Cypress, Grouse, Seymour and North Shore Rescue.
Through the ski patrol connections with Avalanche Canada and in those days it was sort of part of the National Research Council, a fellow by the name of Peter Shearer was available to show the rescue team members here are the factors and what we could do to mitigate the risk that we were having to deal with.
So the team had to learn how to assess avalanche danger, how to assess the hazard involved in, say, crossing this slope or going along this ridge, because you don't want to lose your own team members if you're trying to find and rescue somebody else.
We're pulling out for the night because the avalanche hazard is so bad right now that I can't send crews down into the gullies unless we know that the subjects are down there, because you cannot see what kind of hazard you're putting yourself into.
Code Alpha meant that we had an avalanche and we had victims that were buried. I first remember Code Alpha being brought up, I believe it was in and around 1996. We already did our basic avalanche safety training, so using a transceiver, using a probe, using a shovel, but this was in a larger, organized fashion that would engage our partner agencies to respond in a rapid way. And I remember Tim would hold meetings with all the partner agencies and neighboring teams and go through this very methodical process of how you respond to these incidents.
We would do training with using at that time they were called peeps. They're just basically a little box that'll tell you where your buddy is buried and that type of thing. And we would only ever use those if we were called out on mutual aid somewhere like up in Squamish or Whistler or Pemberton, into what we think is sort of the bigger mountain areas.
When I first joined the team, there wasn't really much talk about avalanches on the North Shore. And people were like, I don't know if there really are avalanches on the North Shore.
No one ever thought there would ever be an avalanche on the front side of any of our local mountains. It was unheard of.
We actually had a avalanche on a Grouse Grind that involved several hikers. It was an extremely big snow month, and we were getting a lot of fronts coming in off of Gulf of Alaska and a lot of snow building up.
So the Grouse Grind faces the city. The Grouse Grind is something you can see from anywhere in Metro Vancouver. It's parallels where the tram runs up to the peak of Grouse.
Tim had actually been looking into it and was fairly prepared, considering that it's such a unique situation.
I remember thinking on the way to Grouse, like, how did Tim even think of this? You know, we had this vision that we needed to do this training, and it really came to fruition there. I remember the chaos as we went up there, but as you went through the card that he had created, we just started working through this piece by piece, and it really paid off. And we had 3 or 4 people that were hit by that avalanche, some with very serious injuries. I think the worst, well, we had a fatality in there. We had someone with bilateral fractured femurs. So this was the real deal, and that call went on for many months with us eventually recovering this one individual's body. But The flip side of that is we also rescued a number of people from that situation, and it's something that's etched in my memory forever.
What it said to us was, one, okay, now there can be avalanches here, there will be avalanches here. So not only did it up the training, but we had to up our understanding of our local terrain. Because we now had to plan, how would I get from point A to point B if I have to go through some of these areas of difficult terrain, and can I map a way to get there without putting myself in trouble? We had never even considered that before.
I want you to pay particular attention to the side gullies, for any kind of debris that may be hung up in small trees, etc.
What's particular about the North Shore Mountains is they're not very lofty. We don't have huge avalanche path that would give you like the Discovery Channel type of avalanches that people think about. But what we do have a tremendous amount of is a thing called terrain traps. And a terrain trap is anything that would increase the consequences of being involved in an avalanche. So for example, if the avalanche pushes you into open water, or over a cliff, or through some trees. So there's very few places in the North Shore where you don't have these terrain traps. Most of the avalanche fatalities that we've seen on the North Shore have involved some kind of terrain trap in one way or another. They're not necessarily very big avalanches, but yeah, with big consequences.
We're really fortunate here on the North Shore to have a dedicated group of avalanche professionals that are able to provide us with a timely forecast that will ensure the safety of our members heading out into winter conditions.
I'm an avalanche safety officer for North Shore Rescue, and what that means is when a call comes in, I need to generate that avalanche operations plan if I'm the duty ASO of the week. That's basically a hazard assessment where we document weather actuals, weather forecasts, avalanche hazard based on the avalanche problems and where they might be.
Currently, our avalanche safety plan uses industry standard. So the Canadian Avalanche Association is responsible for training avalanche professionals. Before I open these trails to public, I have to be very confident that they are safe and they're not going to be hit by an avalanche. Okay, we're complete with explosives. We're gonna keep the trails on standby until we can finish ski cutting.
Roger. Everybody that joins North Shore Rescue or even goes through the application process to become a member of training needs to have an avalanche skills training level 1 course. So that's your basic recreational course. Another path that they could go through the Justice Institute, and that's the avalanche team member course. And we do test the companion rescue skills of each of our members to make sure that everybody going out in the field has a certain level of proficiency. The equipment that they are required to have all the time is an avalanche probe, shovel, and a modern 3-antenna digital transceiver. So the avalanche transceiver is something that we wear on our body that transmits an electromagnetic pulse, and I can take it out and turn it to search so that it would allow me to find somebody who's buried with one of those devices. We do have a matrix that establishes, depending on the level of avalanche hazard and the complexity of the terrain, which level of training is required to lead the team into the field. And in a lot of cases, it will require an avalanche operations level 2 professional coming and volunteering.
When we dig a snow profile, it's like a time capsule. The snowpack records every weather event that happened since the very beginning of the winter, since the very first snowfall.
Really good.
Looks good?
Yeah, perfect.
This whole top of the snowpack, it's starting to get pretty deep as well. So if it does start to move, we're starting to talk about, avalanches that are big enough to bury or very seriously hurt somebody. I think you're right. So the SAR manager will contact the avalanche safety officers. There's 4 of us. and then one of us will take the lead on the call. Good morning. Just a little briefing on avalanche hazard. Most of everything has slid. The thing that hasn't slid either has been bombed or has whomped really hard. And the two things that we have to do first is establish the terrain where the person is, and also the terrain that we need to navigate in order to get there.
Our maps have winter avalanche ratings on them, so the terrain ratings, so we know kind of at a high level like what the danger of going into certain terrain in the winter is. We have an understanding of if it's simple or complex or challenging terrain.
Finally, we're looking at the weather forecast for the first operational period and try to establish whether or not that avalanche hazard is going to change.
Having the North Shore avalanche forecast from Avalanche Canada, that's a huge improvement in safety. People are then aware of how dangerous the avalanche conditions are.
Weather is important because weather creates our avalanche problem. If we have a week of poor weather and then we're coming up into the weekend and we anticipate some clearer skies and a lot of people getting out there, I'll wake up at 5:30 and I'll do an avalanche operations plan for the North Shore, just in case something comes rolling in.
We had a bad stretch during three consecutive years. There was 3 incidents that took the lives of 7 people on the North Shore. And following that, I thought it would be a good idea to provide more information specific to the North Shore to recreational users.
It's Friday, March 29th. Welcome to your new and final backcountry snowpack summary, brought to you by North Shore Rescue.
So I started to do these videos of snow conditions that I typically do on the Friday, so people get a little update on the snowpack.
For a final profile, we picked west aspect, just a little bit below 1,200 meters.
So I generally will give a review of the avalanche activity during the week, the state of the snowpack at the moment, and what the weather forecast is for the weekend, and what that means for the avalanche hazard.
It's very difficult to get out of these wet, loose avalanches, so definitely a little bit of extra caution.
I have a YouTube channel called North Shore Snowpack. Every time I post a video, then I put a link to the video on the North Shore Rescue Facebook page.
As we see recreation trends change, then some of our focus or the bulk of our calls or the skills that we need will change along with that. You see nowadays, quite a big focus on things like avalanche response, just because of the fact that there's so many people out, winter recreation for the snowshoers and backcountry skiers and that type of stuff, that it's been a big change from when I first started.
Preparation means survival for victims of the search as well as the rescuers.
It is really steep in there. 40 degrees, it's pretty steep. And the stuff's coming off the side. It's coming in all the time.
Nervous?
It's not the most pleasant place to be.
It's come a long way, and those initial steps, I think, started to develop the culture that people in the rescue business have to understand.
Those major events are incredible learning possibilities for us about how can we up our game in this. And if for sure, I'd say we are far better in our capacity to both handle ourselves, but be able to assist members of the public.
I have a passion for safety, and specifically with avalanche terrain and avalanche hazard. It's something I think about maybe too much, but I care about it, and I care about keeping everybody on the team safe.
We are so much better as a society for being outside, playing outside, and going out in the backcountry. To be able to contribute to making that endeavor safer for people is very rewarding.